Hi everyone, it's June 20th, 2024, and this is the weekly Backdrop Developer Meeting. We get together every week to talk about development priorities for Backdrop CMS. This meeting, we're going to be talking a bit about the 128.1 release that we're going to be working on getting out this coming weekend. There's a pretty good set of fixes in the release already, and we'll talk a little bit about what last items we still need to get cleaned up for that release coming up. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the Internet and core committer and technical lead for the Backdrop project. I've got a good group of people here today. We'll go around the room and give a quick little introduction for everyone present. We'll start off with Tim and then we'll go to Wes.
Yep, my name is Tim Erickson. I am here from Deerwood, Minnesota today. I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Tim. Wes, and then Eli.
Wes Rubalcaba. I'm joining from Chicagoland, and yeah, working at Giant Rabbit.
Thanks, Wes. Eli, and then Justin.
Hello, I'm Eli Lissick. I'm a developer calling from San Diego, California.
Great. Justin, and then Irina.
Justin Christopherson in Denver, Colorado. Help out with the infrastructure.
Thanks, Justin. Irina, and then Savashri.
Zach, Irina Zach's working from Bay Area, Mountain View, doing lots of themings, Drupal 7 migrations in higher ed. And this year I'm joining Badcamp organizers team, and we're looking forward to Backdrop Summit at Badcamp, and it's going to be my big topic for the next couple of months until October 22nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever it is. And I hope that people will be very excited and will be participating and talking about, all the great things that are happening.
Fantastic. Thank you, Irina. Savashri, and then Greg.
My name is Sarvashri, and I'm in North Carolina, and I'm a site builder, not a developer, so I'm just interested in listening to how things go.
Thanks.
And then Greg.
Yeah, Greg, and then Joseph.
Yeah, I'm Greg. I'm joining from Melbourne, Australia. I'm a Drupal support engineer by day, and I'm interested in anything that has to do with Backdrop in any way that I can help. That's it.
Great. And Joseph?
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada, and a core committer for Backdrop.
All right, that's it. Wow, well, good group today. The very first topic we have is actually just a little housekeeping thing about when we have these meetings themselves. It's been brought up that this is in the leadership Zulip chats amongst PMC and core committers that we don't have a very good distribution of core committers attending these meetings. Joseph, I think you're an exception. You're here pretty often. But we have other core committers that have rarely made these meetings. And so we were thinking about moving the developer meeting around on the schedule to potentially make it more time zone friendly to other core committers. So the proposal, based on the positive feedback thus far, is that we move this meeting just to be before the user group meeting instead of after it. So we just move it forward 2 hours. And I guess we're just looking to kind of get some broader feedback about that schedule change, and literally just ask everyone here, since you guys are people that regularly attend meetings, if 2 hours earlier would be better change or a worse one for you guys. So we got a thumbs up from Wes, Irina, Greg, Eli, Jim. What is this? I cannot believe the amount of approval we've gotten for that particular change. Huh, that's crazy. We probably won't be making that change right away. None of us have anything better to do, says Eli. I doubt that. Well,
None,
we'll probably. Oh, go ahead, Joseph.
none of the Europeans are here to vote.
Yeah, in theory, it would be beneficial to the Europeans because it would move it so that it's not so late in the day. It'd probably make it be like, like what would that be like 6 or so p.m. there instead of being like 8 p.m. So hopefully it'd be beneficial. Also, we're not going to make the change right away. I've got a conflict at that time for the next 3 weeks, but then after that, then we'll probably start making that shift. So that is useful information. We'll kind of put that into the thread of conversation in there, and then we'll talk about how we can just start distributing that information about a potential time change for this meeting. Tim?
Yeah, Nate, I would just recommend that we be clear about the goal is to get, a little bit more participation from core committers that they don't need to be here every week, but also to give Nate the flexibility that, like, if Nate's not here, that another core committee. I think there's sort of an assumption that it's good to have a core committer here to answer questions and to lead these meetings. And if Nate's not here, it's nice to have a backup at least, or even Nate, you might even consider like scheduling other people to lead some of the meetings, just so that when you're not here, it's less traumatic.
Did you say traumatic?
I did say that, but I was exaggerating for effect.
Yeah. So other core committers who might be able to get in here include Laren and
Yeah.
Herb Tool, which would be fantastic. So yeah, that would be great. I agree. And yeah, if I had better project management capabilities, then I would I would try to schedule the meetings a little bit more orderly as opposed to just it being a little bit more by the seat of our pants here. Okay, great. Let's see. So other things we've got today. So let's actually hold on the 128.1 release topics. But again, reiterate that our objective is to get it out this weekend. We'll go to hopefully a pretty simple topic first. Justin, we're gonna zip over to you and ask about upgrading backdropcms.org to PHP 8.2, I think.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, well, this stems from this PHP 8 hosting upgrades issue 940 in the backdrop-ops project. And it's an old issue, but it's still not closed out. There's 3 sites, as far as I know, that are running on PHP 8.7 still. And so to get to 8.2, we needed to at least get to 8.1. And I think each of these sites, as far as I know, still have small bugs to fix, like in the themes or custom other code. And so I'm making kind of a call out to ask for help, and whoever may be available or familiar with those particular sites to kind of take a look at that for us. I think both Jen and I we've been very busy and distracted from following through on this, but eventually it'll come back to bite us with some security problem. So I'd like to get it rolling forward somehow, and then that'll get us to 8.2, which is a different issue. I thought Jen opened that up, but I can't find it in there.
Which
think
queue is
usually-
this under? Is it under backdropcms.org or somewhere else?
It's backdrop-ops and then backdropcms.org project. I put a link in the chat,
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
and then
Issue 940.
940.
Issue
then,
5927 and 4445.
Are those which ones are those,
GitHub.
Savashri?
GitHub, 5927 issue and support 4445 as two issue numbers associated with it.
Okay. Could you post links in the chat too?
Okay.
Okay, great. So I'll put this into the agenda. So we've got the doc site, localize, API. Actually, the API site is the same as the doc site now, so that shouldn't be an issue. And the forum. So we've got 3 sites that I'm guessing these checkboxes are the status of it, right?
Yeah. And then
Okay.
I did implement PHP 8.2 on the beta server, so we can test things against that. So that's in place for all of the sites. Some couple of them don't come up because of errors, but that's a place where we can test and get it ready to go, and then I'll flip the switch on production. So I have it configured so PHP versions are assigned per site and not like globally. So you can control who goes to what and back it out if we need to as well.
Great. Okay.
And I think
Yeah,
that's all I have. So
yeah, there was a little reminder about the volatility of being on old PHP versions this past week. I'm not sure if people saw the widespread security issue with old PHP versions that
Yeah.
was like total server takeovers. However, it only affects servers running Windows.
Naturally.
Naturally, and when running a PHP as fast CGI. So it's like 2 exceptionally odd, well, if you consider running PHP on Windows, odd scenarios, but still like a little reminder that every now and then there's a absolutely fatal flaw in PHP. So yeah, good to always be updating.
Cool.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll see. You know, raising it in Zulip might be a good idea. Obviously there's lots of people that could help with that, but you know, the availability of people is always a little questionable. Bug folder is kind of our unofficial webmaster, if you will, of backdropcms.org sites. It's possible that he would be our best bet to solving these kinds of issues in the theme and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do we do any automated testing against PHP versions when modules are submitted, or is that something we'd be interested in if that's not happening?
Yeah,
think
that would be. We don't
some of
have
the
any
big-
tests.
oh.
We don't have any automatic testing on the sites themselves. No, I don't think.
Yeah. I think the big hangup is that like the contributed modules are not ready for these versions sometimes, and then we get stuck so with the upgrades. So like either we can try to pare these projects down so they're not so depending on contributed modules, or maybe in general we can add like some automated tests to when modules are pushed up in GitHub, to just notify, hey, this line's not working out with PHP 8.2, go check it, kind of stuff. So maybe that would help out.
Okay.
Just an idea.
Great. Okay. Great. Well, let's talk about. Let's see. We'll kind of move on from backdropcms.org. Irina wanted to ask about single sign-on, which we might defer until next week. We already have kind of a lot of stuff to get through today, so that would be awesome. But let's talk about it later. That's a great idea. All right. So let's get talking about some backdrop CMS some backdrop issues. The first one we've got was raised by Savashri, issue 6606. I'll share my screen because I know it's a little bit tough to follow along for those people that aren't in here with us. So here we are. This is just a straight bug, it looks like. Savastri, do you want to elaborate on the problem here?
Yeah, basically, what happens is that the color module is not implementing all of the colors. I put an example in there. It's supposed to be a gradient from dark to light, and you can see the background header top and the background header bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Those two colors are not implemented, only one of them shows up. And then below
and then
is the
this is
Drupal
Drupal.
D7 example.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a
Mhm.
fresh PR just
Supposed
a
to
few
look-
seconds ago that fixes things.
Did you just
I
Excellent.
started a PR, but I figured out what it was. So basically, that background image for the linear gradient should be just background. It's I guess an oversight when we removed the browser-specific Mozilla something. And also that top thing, the specification, if you look it up, the linear gradient says that it should be to top, to bottom, whatever. So it's two words, not just top. So it wasn't doing basically anything. I tried to set it to top, but then it would revert the order of the gradient. It would go from bottom to top, or instead of top to bottom. So I omitted it completely, and it falls back to bottom, and that works.
That's great. So
See?
yeah, Lex.
We could put in
So-
to bottom to be more explicit. The spec for that changed a bunch of times, and like that used to work just fine.
Okay.
Now it doesn't.
Okay,
So
yeah,
you-
I can do that.
You have the fix for it then.
Yes,
Great.
So what is it? It's like two bottom.
to bottom, yeah.
You literally like this two space
Two
bottom.
space bottom,
Yeah.
yeah, and then a comma.
Comma.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Wow, that is. I have my CSS ignorance, but that just looks weird.
does.
Yeah, I don't
And
disagree.
I think that the browser implementations just had top. But if you look the official Mozilla specification now, it says that it should be the word to and then followed by whatever, bottom, left, right, whatever. You can go ahead and
Interesting.
commit the suggestion. Yep.
Okay, great. Well, we'll see if that works. All right, well, that's a much simpler fix than I was expecting, so that's great. Great, thanks for calling that out, Savastri. It looks like this is already tagged for the 128.2, 28.1 release, so hopefully if this is as smooth as it looks, then that'll be fixed this weekend.
Great.
Okay, let's see. Also, related, this is just something, I was looking at the 128.1 milestone. There's got a good number of issues that are in here. We've got 8 closed, which is fantastic, including the main issue, which is this thing around icon API and adding SVG attributes doesn't work on old versions of PHP. That's the main stimulus for getting this release out. But then there's also a good number of other issues in here. There's like a half dozen other RTBC issues, so we'll try to get through those before the
I think that
release.
there was another one. There was another one with the variable for the, again, with the addition of the SVG icons. Like we added a variable, I think, for the admin menu. I think that we merged that, or if it's RTBC something.
Let's see. I know you wanted this one, more SVG elements and theme icon. That's ready to go.
But is it? Yes. Oh, yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, that's the one. But there's
Okay.
another one that Indigo Zella was working on, if I'm not mistaken. I'll try to find it. You can move on and I'll try to find it.
Great. The one item I wanted to take a look at was something we got deferred from the 128 release, which is keeping Ceditor 5 up to date. This would be nice. It needs testing. I'm not actually sure. Like maybe we actually shouldn't be testing this quite yet, because I was looking at the releases and Ceditor has had like 4 additional releases since Backdrop 128 came out. So that was just a little over a month ago. They've had a lot of releases since then. So so we should update this to use the latest version again, and then get it reviewed. So this has got a little bit of work to do. Actually, I should just go ahead and mark this as needs work.
Which one is that? Sorry. Oh yeah. Okay.
6481.
Yep.
Okay.
In the meantime, I found the other issue that I was talking about. It's 6609. That's RTBC as well, the one that IndigoZilla was working on.
Mm-hmm. This is great. Yeah, lots of little things around the new icon system.
Yep.
Great. All right. Yeah, and then other than that, not explicitly stating them, these are the issues that we're going to try to prioritize. Well, it's impossible that we'll get through all of them before this weekend. They'll get bumped to 128.2. But there are a lot of issues here that we can get done in the next couple of days. I haven't specifically specified which day the release would be. I would guess probably Sunday. So that would be the 23rd. And we'll make an issue for tracking the 120.1 bug fix release window, and then we can follow along there. Usually a bug fix release is, once we get all the issues and stuff like that merged, it's a really non-event getting it out there, because it doesn't require any press release tasks and doesn't require making backports to previous versions. It's usually pretty quick. Okay. All right, we've got one issue that could take a little while, so we're going to try to get to it, and then we'll open up for other discussion. But issue that there's been a little bit of back and forth with this week. It was raised by Joseph regarding tracking file usage. So Joseph, do you want to give us the rundown on this particular issue?
Sure. So first, actually, it was raised by Greg 3 years ago, but
yeah.
So essentially, the filter module, when you're using a rich text editor to add an inline image, only adds file usages when the thing you're editing is a field API field, and it doesn't work for any other form API sort of rich text areas that you've added to any editors to. And this is the same with Cgator 4, Cgator 5, and TinyMC. Like, they all do the same thing. And so basically, yeah, I don't know. That's the issue, is that file usages don't get added, and so the files get deleted when the garbage collection happens on cron.
Yeah, so this issue started as very specific use cases, 2 very specific use cases. One was the descriptions, so images added to the description of tags, taxonomy tags, terms, or blocks. So basically that's how it started. But it turns out that it's a little bit broader. Now, IndigoZilla expressed the opinion that this is making it broader was not a right move. Maybe we should file a separate issue and leave that to specifically dealing with the descriptions. But Joseph and I are on the same boat that this should be solved more globally. The counter argument that IndigoZilla presents, I think, is that this is sort of like a relic. I think she used the word from CCK and Drupal 7. So yeah, I think it's the last comment Yeah, the last comment on the thread from Medigozella.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Is it
Yes.
essentially her opinion is that the taxonomy description shouldn't be a property, it should be an actual field. Which like I don't know. I could I could
see.
understand that, but my point was that this just doesn't work if you try to use the rich text editor outside of fields.
Yeah. That's a okay. I thought my local was ready. I was gonna pull it up to look at it, but yeah. Okay. So because it only works on fields, then it obviously doesn't work on block descriptions because blocks are stored in config.
Mhm.
But a taxonomy term has a description field, and that description field is also not a proper field module field. It's just
It's
something that's,
it's a property of the entity.
yeah, I see. And so yeah, focusing on the entity one would definitely be like taxonomy terms. That would be pretty straightforward, I bet. Yeah, is this issue not tracking, or what this says ignore this? I'm not quite sure what the ignore this is, but there's a separate issue. It looks like, oh, I see, does not provide the option to upload an image.
That is not the case on my site.
Because it does allow it.
Yeah.
Interesting. So anyway, so now we've got a different issue. This is interesting. It's actually like if it did do this, this would actually be better because it would at least avoid the data loss. Like if
Right.
you could select an existing image, but there was no upload option. It's interesting. I wonder when this capability was changed, or if that was intentional, that at one point apparently there wasn't the option to upload an image, because that would be a completely different, maybe not as desirable an outcome. Solution to this problem is like if we're not saving the images properly and they're going to get deleted, then we could prevent that problem from happening by preventing the upload entirely. But I'm not sure if that's easy to track.
There's a very lengthy issue that started back in October 2016 in Drupal about data loss. Similar use case where the usage is not being tracked properly. Either it gets decremented to 0 when it shouldn't, or it doesn't get incremented properly when you start using the files, and that results in garbage collection coming and deleting these files when when it shouldn't happen. And there's more complex issues related to that in Drupal. I don't want us to get to the same situation where we are not tracking properly images added to various places. So ideally, if we are allowing images to be added somewhere, we should be tracking usage properly.
So so Joseph, what's the looks like this pull request is brand new. What's the
Yes.
approach that you're taking here?
So the quick and simple thing for the taxonomy terms is to just add it to the term controller to handle that one property. I am actually pushing a commit momentarily to fix those test failures. Yeah, so this is like the quick and simple solution. Just have the taxonomy controller handle it. The problem I don't know how to solve is I don't know how to tell, sort of in an abstract way, which entity properties are using the rich text editor and should be processed for files.
You mean, oh, to handle this
Right.
outside of yeah, to handle it generically. Yeah.
Yes. I wasn't able to figure that out in the last 24 hours. So
Yeah, I don't see a big problem with this. I think this is pretty fine, quite
okay.
honestly.
We could
Because
essentially do the exact same thing for the
Blocks.
blocks.
Well, actually, for blocks are stored in config. I think that gets into a little bit more of a problematic situation
Like an
because
if you import config and it changes the description, then what
yeah,
happens with the file usages?
yeah, exactly. And not only that, but the file IDs are likely not consistent across different environments. And so if you created a block on your local and uploaded a file on your local, well, you're going to have lots of problems, right? Because the file wouldn't even exist when you import it into the production site because you uploaded the file on your local site or your dev site or something like that. So not only can you get file mismatches, but also files not existing. And so I don't know, that idea of tracking file usage for config items, like not just blocks, but also other things that are in config, like views or a custom block that's embedded within a layout.
Right. Yeah, because
like-
you can have like a global text area in your view header, and
Mhm.
you run into the same problem.
Yeah. So just generally files and config are just problematic.
Maybe
Moving those in
that bit
between
should be,
environments.
yeah, maybe that should be split into a different thing. Anything that has to do with config specifically, like tracking file usage in config. That does sound like a separate issue.
Yeah. So this issue is probably just a little bit too broad because does it also cover blocks or is it only taxonomy terms that we're talking about here?
I think it started just with taxonomy initially.
Yeah, but then here's block content
Then
in
the
here too.
blocks. Yes.
Yeah. That should be separated out because it's a more complicated problem, I think. For
Yep.
taxonomy terms,
Okay.
I think what Joseph has done here is a really good solution to just fixing the immediate problem. If we do, like, I think Indigo Zella's suggestion is also totally valid. That would be really nice if that description weren't a property and if it were a proper field. There's actually still this way in Drupal too. I was a little bit surprised that it's not a real field there either. And yeah, you can't remove it. I found out, like, if you don't want the description or you want to call it something else, it's not an option to do that.
Right.
So, but I think that would be just a totally separate, like, let's handle that differently from this, which we can just do right away.
Are you able to change the label of it? Or is it locked at on description?
I can't remember. I think it's
Okay.
locked, but
Interesting.
okay. Great. Anything else on this issue, Joseph? It wasn't as bad as I was expecting. It looks like I thought we were going to talk about config tracking entities, but if we're just talking about, because that would require a much bigger set of changes, I think, because the entire file usage system is meant to only track file usage within content. It doesn't even have the concept of tracking file usage in config.
Right.
So this particular problem is actually pretty small in its scope.
I don't know. I think that's it. I'm patching my client site right now because they have files that are getting deleted.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's see here. Those are the topics that we had for today's agenda. And we still have 10 minutes left, which is amazing. Does anyone else have
Hello.
something they'd like to bring up?
I'll let anyone else speak. I just have 4 tabs open, various issues that are very close or they need unblocking. If anyone else wants to bring anything up.
Can I jump in and raise an issue, one that so I'm working on this recipe theme project. Some of you have heard about Zever. One of the things we're doing is using a recipe with a bunch of dependencies on other recipes to add a bunch of contrib and it's kind of like a distribution, but it's more in recipe format. And I've run into this problem, which is not serious. Hopefully, there's an easy fix for it. But it is very sort of it's going to be very annoying. And the problem is, and where's I'm trying to quickly find, I think this is it.
Yeah, it was one of the issues I wanted to bring up as well.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think
it's issue number 6607. I'll share my screen quick just so we can see the error message. But the problem is this. I have recipes that add functionality, and then they have sub projects which add content. Okay. And if I so the content adding is optional. And then for example, the services or the FAQ or the portfolio projects. Those are all recipes that specifically add functionality and potentially some content. Then I have the digital agency recipe that requires all of those modules. If I didn't specifically require the FAQ sample content module, which is a submodule of the FAQ module, then sometimes the modules would install out of order, and I wouldn't get the content because it would try to do my assumption is it tries to do the content before the content type has been created, because that's happening in two different modules. And so I need to require the submodule as well as the parent module, all of which works fine. Once I do that, all of the recipes get loaded at once, and they get loaded in the right order, and everything works perfectly. But because I've listed the submodules as dependencies, it's saying, when it gets to this stage of the process, it doesn't know where the submodule is. So it says, it gives this warning, cannot fetch the release for the sample content submodule. Well, in fact, that's not really a problem because the submodule is part of the parent module. So when it comes to installing them, it works just fine. But along the way, we get this annoying warning, and so I think the solution is either just for some way for Backdrop to look within the other modules for submodules, or I don't know, there just some way to warn off this message.
Yeah, I have a theory that I think it's like 90% right, and I need to test. So initially, I thought that we didn't support submodules, and I suggested within the issue that we should support parent project : submodule in the .info files. But Kiam Laluno pointed out that we already support that. So if you download and have all these modules and their submodules on your code base, and you try to enable the submodules, you won't see any problem. But because we backported this from Drupal, right? Because we added the project browser and the project installer, we didn't account for that. So my theory is that the problem is with the project installer here trying to download the submodules. What we should do is ignore any submodules when we know their parent project, download those, and only in the installation step, which is one step further, start enabling or requiring them. It should be relatively easy if my theory is correct. It's just I need to test. I didn't get to that.
I'm just hoping to promote this recipe, and if everybody gets this unnecessary warning, it's a real nuisance. So it's the only reason I'm sort of emphasizing this. So you're saying, Greg, you think it's a problem with the project installer? So that would be like the project module?
The project, the bit of the project installer that downloads the logic that tries to download things. We need at the first step to say ignore any submodule, download the parent projects, and don't throw any warnings there. In the next step, where everything is downloaded, then we start taking into account the submodules and enabling them, or presenting the options to enable them.
So is this a core issue then?
Yes.
Okay, it is still a core issue. Okay. Well,
Yes.
That's all. I just want to make people aware of it and get a gauge on whether this is potentially easy to fix. I mean, it's not like a deal breaker, because again, everything works fine, but I'm just afraid people are going to see this and panic and cancel, and all they have to do is hit install and everything will work fine.
We actually discussed this with Joseph once he left yesterday, the office hours, and we discussed all this. So yeah, it's on my to-do list. I'll have a look. Can I quickly mention a few issues
I'm done.
before we
I'm done.
close? Yep. Right. All right.
Greg's like, it's not a
I'll
problem.
start-
I'll fix it. Let me talk about my issue.
No, it's not my issues actually. Some of them are my issues as well. I have 5 minutes. Countdown. Right. Challenge accepted. It's 1403, so 1403. And that's a rather old issue. I had a pull request there, and it's trying to backport a feature from the form API that was introduced in Drupal 8, and it's trying to make the description position for various elements configurable, whether it's going to be above or below the element, either right after the label or after the main section of the element. Yes. So I had a pull request there, and then Hebdul started reviewing it, and there were many things that he wanted to suggest. So he thought better to file a pull request instead. So I closed my PR in favor of his, and now we're at the point where I like where this is going, and but I cannot RTBC it because his pull request is based on mine, so someone else needs to review. But as far as I'm concerned, it's RTBC, and I can test it because I have another issue that is sort of like blocked on this one. So I can do the testing, but I need someone else to do the review.
Does this work on field sets as well as fields?
Yes. Various and it sets, yeah, and based on various feedback from Jen as well, we set the default different ways. So if it's a single radio or a single checkbox or simple fields, then we leave it as it is. But for elements that the description gets lost, like when you scroll or when you move your eye, there's a lot of radio buttons. It makes more sense to bring that at the top right after the label. So certain elements like the text areas, radius, and checkboxes by default get that above the main element right after the label. The rest of them are left as they are, but it can be overridden, and that's the main.
Yeah, that looks nice, and it's right in line with the way the title display works. I was like, why is it called description display? Because I thought that was a funny name, and I'm like, oh well, title display is also a little funny, and so it's just consistently funny. That's great.
Yeah, and
Cool.
if you have any code snippets from D8, because they use the same name as well, it will be less things to port if you're trying to port things or make compatible, because we'll have matching names for the properties. So that's one. So I'm soliciting code reviews for that one and testing. And I have, by the way, added tests, which is awesome. Next issue is actually one of Tim's favorite, 6591. So this is the problem.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so there's a pull request and it works, and I think we have 2 people that confirmed that it works. Or maybe, oh no, just Tim. So basically what I'm doing there is we were previously just comparing the two values, the before and after, but the order of the attributes within them could have changed but still be the same. So you would have identical attributes but different order. And just comparing the two strings before would make them different. Now what I'm doing is I'm breaking it down to nodes and then comparing the nodes and using is equal node, which is agnostic to the order of the attributes. So
oh, cool. Yeah, this is definitely
quick.
pretty.
Yeah, that's a quick workaround. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, wow, this is great. Yeah, this is going to be really nice. That would ignore all white space issues too, potentially, wouldn't it?
Could
Like
potentially, yes.
that'd be nice.
I think that Savashri, when we moved from one of his sites from Drupal 7 to Backdrop, had this issue, but it's also Backdrop sites that are upgrading from CKEditor 4 to 5. So it's annoying. I think we also have that same issue in the forum, I think, that people mentioned
Mm-hmm.
in the forum site. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to try this over on the forum site and see if it solves the problem. Because I think it was attribute order over there as well. So that's great. Okay, that's
Yeah,
excellent.
and one final, and one final issue, very briefly. I'm not. Let's not go. Just code review. That's 6520.
I was checking to make sure this one's in the 120.1 milestone because that would be
Yep.
great.
Yep.
Okay.
I've added. Yeah. So that's basically. I think we've touched on this before. We needed to indicate and we had some disagreements on whether we should be showing the actual values or not. So basically, just so that it's on the radar, and I've added the milestone to that one, so it needs code review. So that's what it looks like.
Okay, so we're back to showing the file directories again.
Here, yes, but in the debug information, no.
Yep, I agree with that. I support that choice. Because the status report also lets you see like the PHP info, for example, which reveals
Yes.
tons of directories and internal information. And that's, I
Yep.
mean, the status report is meant to be helpful and detailed. So I think this is great.
Yep. There's so many other issues. I'm not going to mention any more. It's just that we broke Tugboat. We need more. It says at some point, some pull request said that we are out of quota from the many pull requests. So
Oh no. Wow. Even with our automatically closing pull requests after a month, huh? We still have too
I
many.
think it's after 90. I think it's after 90 days. Maybe it is after a month. But yeah, recent activity, I guess. And Greg
think it's
filing too
90
many pull
days.
requests. 90 days. Yes, I recall. Okay, but yeah, but that's a good thing. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is well, it's
Well,
a good problem and not at the same time.
it's also it's not realistic because we also have the problem right now of every time somebody does merges that most of the existing ones break. So probably a lot of those environments that we have aren't even functional.
Yep.
So
Yeah, so we can tear down the ones that are out of date.
maybe we
if
should
it's
just
actually blocking people.
maybe we should reduce it from 90 days to something less, given that practically almost none of them that are 90 days old would be working anyways.
Yeah, that's true. And if people want to refresh them, they just have to click the button, update the branch to be up to date. And so that wouldn't be a bad thing, really. Okay. Well, we're all out of time for today. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is a lot of fun discussion. And yeah, again, we'll make the release issue for 128.1. We'll target Sunday as the release day. And I'll get on top of the RTBC queue. There's at least 6 issues in there. And then we'll try to get through a lot of these issues that we discussed today, get them through the review process and get them fixed this weekend. So go team. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. See you later.
Thanks.
Bye.